Well, good morning and welcome to New 6th Gen Farmer. This morning we are going to be fungicide spraying with a John Deere 6000 high cycle. Now, this is not my new 6000 high cycle that I bought here this past year. This is my brother's. And the reason being is that we just don't have enough corn that we're gonna be spraying this year. With it being so wet, we have a lot of corn that is probably barely gonna make the federal guarantee anyways, if it even does. So we have 3 fields that we're gonna for sure spray a fungicide this year, and it doesn't make sense to get 2 high cycles out to do 3 fields. And my brother's is ready. Mine currently is not ready. It doesn't even have a tank on it. I've been doing some projects on it in the background. So using my brother's high boy today. And also we got a new straight truck here. Now what's really nice about this is that we hot mixed it. So everything that we need to spray out in this field is already mixed in this 3,600 gallon, is it 3,600? Yeah, I think 3,600 gallon tank. So it's just gonna make loading a lot quicker and a lot easier, because for a 320 gallon tank, it's hard to mix a bunch of chemicals in by the time that thing's full. But that being said, before I can even start here this morning, I need some paper towels, because the windows never got washed this high cycle. Hi boy, and they are disgusting. That's not what I need. That's what I need. Oh boy. Yes, I'm not even gonna wash the outside, just the inside. Mainly so my camera will stick to the window. I've already agitated the sprayer this morning, so I don't need that one on. That one on. Now if I flip this one on, and then this one on. Running. I got RTK, I got a rate controller. Let's zero out the acres. I got my booms up, turn the pump on. I say we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right here is where I need to be. Let's go. This one has a cushioned front end, so I'm not going to be bouncing around so bad on the end roads like I usually do. Kind of nice. only at 17.7. We do the decreased gallons per acre compared to most people because we've got such a small tank, but we come out early in the morning. It's currently like 6:10, 6:15 in the morning, and there's still some dew on the plants, and that acts as a natural carrier. And we found that that actually really helps. Not only does it act as a natural carrier, but because it's early in the morning, it's a lot cooler out, and the fungicide stays in the plant longer before it evaporates. So I finished my first tank, and towards the end, the pressure gauge was just spiking through the roof. So I took my filters out, and they're all clogged. And one thing I didn't think of is, with this nice straight truck being hot mixed, I have no water to clean my filters, so goodbye all my drinking water, I guess. That didn't even do anything. Still all clogged. Look at that. Disgusting. Improvise, overcome, adapt. It actually kind of works. You get good pressure on it. It actually does clean it out, and then I just rinsed it out with water before I put it back in the sprayer. I mean, whatever you gotta do to survive, right? Then, just take my nice drinking water that I need for the rest of the day. Is it perfect? No. Is it much cleaner than it was? Absolutely. Okay, my filters are somewhat clean. I called my dad. He's gonna bring me out probably a spray bottle of water, so that way I can keep them clean without using Windex in my drinking water. And I'm not quite done with the end rows yet, but I'm going to start going back and forth so that way I can get my AB line set up. Luckily, we planted 2 different varieties in this field. Each variety change is a center of the planter, so it's really easy for me to just find the variety change. The task is a different color. I'll get my camera facing the other direction here eventually. So I find this color change. I center my AB line, turn the pump on, there we go. Yeah, my pressure is no longer pegging out the meter. I'm 45 psi roughly. Which my brother's Highboy has a pressure gauge inside the cab. On mine, I gotta get that. I gotta look backwards for mine, and it just makes it really hard. All you gotta do is run a hose barb and a pressure hose outside into the cab, and then have your pressure gauge in the cab, which I'm definitely gonna do to mine this winter. That is super nice. Okay, I'm gonna go to phone mode here for a little bit so you can see what's going on. So if I turn right here, you can see that the corn's a little bit shorter here from our tracks, but we have 2 different varieties of Pioneer and Whipples. Start spraying. Now I just got the 2630 in here this year, but this makes it really easy to find where I need to go. So that's why I wanted to start over here, because we got these 2 different varieties. I can set my AB line really easily. And then when I get out of the trial over there a little bit further, I'll have a good reference of where I need to be when I turn around. Because sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. Other than that, got the Raven 440 going. Got the MTG behind me. And this is Highboy spraying. I do quite enjoy this. Just something different. More of an analog experience than most farming nowadays. Plus, it's just gorgeous. I just love driving through these nice cornfields, even though this is kind of a shorter spot right here, but it just looks beautiful. there we go. Finish this field, on to the next one. So I got the sprayer dropped off at the next field, and we are back here at the field where I just got done spraying. We're with Jared. He is a agronomist with Whiffles. What's kind of your region?
Yeah, so I cover basically northwest Iowa, southwest Minnesota, into eastern South Dakota.
And then, so basically, I mean, you're with Whiffles, so anytime that a seed rep or a territory rep wants you to come check something out, that's kind of when you come down and you kind of manage different territories and stuff like that. Do you ever do anything like one-on-one with customers, or?
Yep, yeah, for sure, quite a bit. I mean, you know, could be anything, you know, if there's an issue going on, or, you know, hey, want to come look at my corn, those types of things. Maybe a weather event goes through, there's some hail, you name it. Basically anything weird, I'm the one that gets the questions.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't want to answer the questions.
Keeps it exciting, that's for sure. Keeps it interesting. Never 2 days the same.
Yeah. No, it's farming in general, I think.
Exactly.
So if you guys are a Whiffles customer and you have something weird going on, if you reach out to your seed rep or a territory rep, I'm sure that they can get in contact with the agronomist for your area. But we're at this field today because we got the Whiffles Pioneer trial. So it's, let's say 2440 or 2446,
yep,
and versus Pioneer 9955, and then the rest of this field is all Whiffles 1996. So we're gonna go out, do some comparisons, dig up some ruts, and check it out.
Yep.
So we got the Whiffles on the left and the Pioneer on the right. When you're kind of walking into trials like this, what are some things that you look for?
I mean, just generally, obviously hybrid characteristics. You know, you can see there's a little bit of difference in height. I'd say the Pioneer's just a little bit taller here than the 2446. I don't know, a lot of that's just not necessarily going to influence yield, you know, at least in larger plots. Small plots, taller hybrids do tend to capture a little bit more light. Otherwise, just, you know, leaf size, shape, architecture, some of those types of things that are a little bit more general, just hybrid characteristics.
So one thing I noticed when I was spraying here this morning was that most years when I'm spraying fungicide in those old high cycles, the corn is usually hitting the middle of the top of the cab. Yep. It was hitting the bottom kind of part of the cab. You've seen that corn's just generally shorter this year? Yep,
definitely. That's probably the most common observation this year is short corn, shorter than normal at least. And a couple things for that. Really, anytime corn, or most plants for that matter, have a stressful phase in their life, it basically shortens that period to some degree. So like, and that's one of the reasons why early planted corn, you know, say on a normal year, you plant some on April 15th and some on, you know, May 30th. Typically that early planted corn is shorter than the later planted stuff, just because it's colder, a little more stressful during those earlier kind of elongation phases, basically.
Interesting. And I mean, obviously, like being wet attributes to yield, but does like early planted and later planted stuff, that height difference, do you really see much of a yield difference, or?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, a lot of it just, you know, it might influence height, but in terms of yield potential, it's probably not going to have any big impact, at least.
What about stalk roundness and the ability for it to withstand wind?
Yeah, I mean, tall trees catch more wind, right? Yep. So that's the one benefit this year. A shorter crop does, you know, tend to catch a little bit less wind, and probably will, you know, made us a little bit more tolerant to any of the wind that did come through. Thankfully, knock on wood, we've been, you know, pretty lucky so far.
Yeah,
but
we have been.
Yeah, if it comes through, you know, there's not a lot to catch wind here, right? I mean, it's only, I'm about 6 foot tall, and the top of the tassels maybe 7 feet. So, no, that's, I mean, in general, probably a positive thing. I mean, yeah, especially if you talk about wind damage, root lodging, those types of things. So, yeah, the crop definitely has been shorter than normal this year.
This has hurt my bottom line, you know.
On a year like this, where every plant counts. And the ground's not even muddy.
Perfect.
90% of the fields I've been in this year seemed like they're really wet. So
we are in, I mean, this is the center of our planter. So these, let me just try to think. Technically, these are not pinch rows, but these are on the edge of a compaction spot. So, because the planter tire would have been there and there.
Yeah, so in generally, I mean, basically looking for good root development, and these are crown roots, these kind of large scale roots. You know, 2446 does have pretty good root structure. It's one of those we typically like in wet conditions, and you know, looks like it did a pretty good job of putting down some roots. You can see where the seed was.
Yep.
Usually that crown, kind of right in this area, will form about 3/4 of an inch below the soil surface. So, I mean, looks like you're probably right at that 2-inch mark, roughly, for planting depth.
That was kind of our...
Right in the sweet spot.
Our target all year is about 2 inches, so...
Yep, I'd say you hit it there, so... Otherwise, yeah, not seeing any rootworm feeding so far. That's the other thing I look for. It's kind of afraid, you know, rootworms will eat those roots back quite a ways.
Okay, so basically you'll see one of these cut short and kind of frayed, or what's...
Yeah, basically it'll kind of look brown, and, you know, if the rootworm feeding's bad enough, it'll eat it all the way up into the crown, basically.
Okay.
Or just, you know, a lot of times they'll be maybe an inch or so long, and they'll kind of just look kind of chewed on and rotten, almost a little brown on the end.
Now, you said that you've seen a lot less corn rootworm this year, I think just because of the rain.
Yeah.
Kind of drowned them out.
Yep. Yeah, so that's the one benefit, right? At least makes us feel good when we've had ridiculous amounts of literally your yearly rainfall in a month period.
Yep.
In some of these areas.
No, it's usually we spray insecticide and we do fungicide. We didn't even bother this year.
Yeah.
And I think I saw 3 beetles on the windshield when I was spraying today. Yep. Normally it's full.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that was the time too. We've done a lot of sticky trapping, and so far, I just looked at the results so far. I think we have one trap in my entire geography that is at or above threshold. So basically, 2 or more trap per day, which would predict heavy rootworm pressure for next year's corn. So it looks, at least so far, that we probably did drown a few.
Well, good. That's, you know, you have one good thing out of wet year. I know last year we had a lot of issues, so maybe it's kind of nice to get a little reset.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, last year was pretty extreme. Rootworms like dry. They're like drought years, basically. So, and we've had how many up until this year?
Yeah, like 3 or 4 in a row.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they've kind of been building. It's kind of a hard reset, if you will, with Mother Nature. So, but anywho.
So root structure looks good. Anything else you notice on the plant at all? Anything that stands out to you, or not really?
Not necessarily. I mean, obviously short. We talked about that. Roots look good. The stand looks good. I guess we take a stand count and see what we got for stand out here. We could replant the corn, maybe. And then
yeah, that'd help.
I'm sure it'll survive, right?
we can look at the Pioneer, but first we're doing a stand count.
Just some other general hybrid characteristics. Obviously, fibrous roots versus more tap roots. You know, this one so far looks like there's maybe a little bit more dense fibrous roots. Maybe not as many of those larger tap root, I guess, type. So, I mean, that's all just goes into hybrid characteristics. You know, within a company, across companies, regardless, I guess. But otherwise, looks pretty good here too. Cool.
Just like to hear.
Should we see what kind of potential we got?
Yeah, 18 by 38 on the Pioneer. Now I'm guessing that these are going to be extremely close. It's just,
yeah, and obviously single year. Who the heck knows? A lot of things can change between now and harvest too.
Yeah.
3, 4, 6, 8, 16, 18. Two, 3, 4, 6, 38. I mean, yeah, basically.
Basically identical.
Very similar.
Looks like the Whiffles is a little bit further ahead.
Yeah, just a touch further along, maybe.
Yeah. Stuff like this, really hard to tell in the field. Kind of comes down to the grain cart scale when we actually get out here and take 12 rows at a time.
I will say one of the things we can plug in, Whiffles does have a yield calculator.
They have an app?
Not an app, unfortunately.
Website?
But yeah, on our website, if you go to the agronomy tab on the Whiffles website,
okay,
pull that up if we have reception. And the interesting thing on there, I guess that's unique. You know, a lot of times the old school method, you know, you do girth times length, you know, times plants per acre, and then you divide by 90,000 kernels per bushel, right?
Yep.
Well, modern hybrids, all modern hybrids in a typical year will have less than 90,000 to produce a bushel. And what our yield calculator does is basically factors that in. So yeah, click on yield calculator.
I'll leave the link for this in the description. I'll find it.
So yeah, we'll punch in 18 around by, what did we say, 38?
38.
Long. Stand count. We better do a stand count
better do
next,
stand count.
All right, so years per acre, what do we have, 36?
36.
And then we'll plug in, this is 2446, correct?
Yep.
And then we also have a tab where you can select the yield environment, and what this does is basically just pulls on our data set. You know, so is it a really high yielding environment? Is there stress or not, type of thing? So we'll just start for a kind of a mid-level yield environment. Oh, 0.3 bushels an acre. 36,000, not 36.
Ah, yeah.
I hope you have more than 36 plants. There we go. So obviously, if all those kernels fill, that's pretty nice yield potential there.
Yep.
But what I like to do in here too, I mean, because obviously there's a lot of work yet to be done.
Yep.
So kind of put a range in there. So this hybrid, kind of in a more stressful environment, you know, it takes about 97,000 kernels to make a bushel. In, you know, really high yielding environments where we have really good grain fill conditions, it only takes about 70,000. And you can, you know, plug in generic numbers in here as well. So we've got just sort of the generic 90,000. If you're more of an old school kind of methodology. And
okay, so you can, for the hybrid, instead of selecting the actual hybrid, you can do the old fashioned math too.
Yep, exactly. So we can plug in just 90,000.
See what that says.
That'd be about 273.
Okay.
So me, I guess my personality, I like to be on the conservative side when you're doing yield estimates. Seems like you always target a big ear, right? And it's never as good in the real world. But.
And the thing is too is that this is a really good spot of the field.
Yeah.
And there's definitely, if we get going that way a bit, there's definitely some shorter yellower corn where, you know, there was round intakes and stuff where it's going to all average out. But I think this is probably going to be this field has our highest potential for yield this year.
Yeah, it's
I would guess.
Certainly a nice looking field. I mean, really that's where you'd be, I'd say on the low end, 220.
Okay.
You know, obviously there's still 330, 350 bushel yield potential out here, but as any farmer knows, it's all dependent on here on out, right? So
absolutely. So now we're in a different part of the field. This is, well, we have a couple of spots that got wet, but we got to walk out a really long ways. This is a spot where our anhydrous bar ran out of nitrogen, and probably about a couple hundred yards down, and we just didn't bother coming back out to get this one pass. I'm just kind of curious to see what the yield potential looks like here. This one?
Yep.
36.
Same as before.
Exact emerge planter.
Don't you love it when it's what it's supposed to be?
I do love it. This is
this is
1996.
I'd say that's under 200 bushel yield environment.
Yep. I would say
so still 160 bushel, I'd say.
Okay.
You know, potential there, which, you know, now obviously in the summertime, if we can sort of get just the right amount of rain, we'll utilize some nitrogen, and that's where weather from here on out will dictate, you know, what happens.
That's what we were saying the whole time. We'll probably get flooded out in June, July, and then we won't get any more rain for the rest of the year.
Exactly. So, I mean, obviously it's fairly dry, but there's still good moisture there. You know, digging roots, I mean, it was about perfect soil moisture for that. So, you know, right now it's all you can ask for some of these areas.
So as people are going to, you know, looking at fungicide and insecticide and all this stuff, and different environments that we've had this year, what are you kind of telling guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's been the challenge in our geography here, where we've had ridiculous rain, right? We've had 20 plus inches of rain in a 2-month period after planting.
Yep.
So some fields, you know, the yield potential is just not there. I mean, you've got big holes, big zeros basically in the field, or areas like this where maybe you put a full rate of nitrogen on, and the corn's still only shoulder high, you know, or less, and not even pollinating yet. You know, the yield potential is not real high there, so it's really a field by field, you know, scenario where some fields make sense, and then the crop insurance scenario, are you enterprise units versus individual, and
the crop insurance is making a big difference this year in what people are.
Yeah, it really influences your decision making process, and it's just hard to give one answer. But really, what I've been telling people is, I mean, even if you're going to collect insurance, enterprise units, take your best field and manage that the best you can, because for like me, like I really like to look forward to at least one field to harvest this year. But, you know, don't get me wrong, there's some really good corn in some other areas of the world, and you know, those places I'd be putting your money there, because I think you'll get rewarded. Come harvest. Yeah,
if all of our fields looked like this one, I think we'd be doing full fungicide and insecticide and everything else. But even like this year, even here, we didn't even put insecticide on, mostly because we didn't see a lot of pressure, but just not really. Our thought is save the money this year and go hard next year.
Yep,
on insecticide,
especially if you're not seeing the insects. Still decent potential there, even though this gets zero nitrogen.
So this is where the anhydrous bar was, like the tank was on fumes, and it was just kind of spitting out whatever it had left. So it maybe got something, but not much.
Yeah. Otherwise, all things considered, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely tell the green's a lot lighter green, it's a lot shorter. I mean, I can, with a bent elbow, I can reach the top of the tassel.
Yeah.
I'm about 6 foot tall too, so yeah, it's weird because I mean we've gone through 12, 14 foot tall corn with the high boy before. It's just weird not having it hit you in the face. So back in the shop now, Jared he just left. After we finished filming that last clip, we went out to the test plot or the trial where we have like 32 or 36 different varieties, some Whiffles, some DeKalb, some Pioneer, and some Channel. And we walked through almost the entire thing, and it was really cool to hear him or listen to him talk about these varieties, because he has experience with all the Whiffles varieties, and then he knows quite a few of the competing DeKalb, Pioneer, and Channel hybrids too. It was just kind of cool seeing him walk through there and compare and say, oh, I know this is a predecessor of this, this is this. This really shines in this area, this shines in this area. And it kind of made me excited to combine this trial here this fall. So that was really cool. Hopefully Jared can kind of show up in a couple videos a year here. I kind of hope to get him out, possibly while combining, we'll see. And then definitely planting for next year. Want him to come out and see how the planting's doing, maybe do some emergent stuff. So if you found this video fun or informative, hit that like button. If you have any questions for me or Jared, leave them down in the comment section below. I didn't tell him that I'd be doing that, but if I see a question that is for him, I'll text him and have him answer it. See you guys in the next one.